I just didn't present in the manner in which I wanted to.
Isn't that amazing?
But seriously, how common has that been in your experience? You've worked with a lot of women in front of the camera. Is that an unusual thing for you to hear?
No. In truth, if I reflect on all my team members, my colleagues and on-air partners that I've shared the screen with, I can remember very early on, again, there was a desire for them to be happy with what they saw. And I understand that. I can remember the first time I saw myself on camera, and my then boss, Bruce Gingell, said to me, I'm going to give you something brand new. So I had just started or about to start my television career, and I'm presented with a beta camera recorder. He gave it to me so I could get comfortable with myself on screen, and that I could... he knew that I had enough critic in me to will myself to get out of any bad habits.
I'm Di Gillett, and welcome to the Power of Women podcast. I love that this is a platform that showcases and celebrates the strength, resilience and achievement of women from all walks of life. Today, however, I'm going to be putting myself in the spotlight because we're going to change this up a little bit. So for the very first time, the executive producer, George Donikian, who is also my husband, is joining me in the studio today. There's a lot to talk about through a serious lens of reinvention, partnership, and the power of storytelling. And I've learnt much of that from the man sitting opposite me on the desk today. And as a partner in life for 20 years, to find ourselves working together for the first time in our careers is really quite something. And I know a lot of people, when you say, could you work with your partner, they'd say they couldn't do it. I have to say, this is the best career I have ever had. So without any further ado, George Donikian, welcome to the Power of Women podcast.
What a pleasure to finally share a microphone on Power of Women. I know how important it is and has been for you over the past year. I want to commend you. I think it's been extraordinary watching your growth, because I can remember a time, it wasn't that long ago, when I asked you to comment on a particular program I was running at the time. I think it was called The Insiders or something. Or The Informer. The Informer. And there was a particular topic that you had great expertise in. It was about a new idea that you were pursuing with a couple of girlfriends. It was called Partenaire. And I remember saying to you, come and talk to me about it, and we'll shoot the breeze. And
didn't go so well, did it?
No, when you offered up one of your girlfriends, who did a fabulous job. Thank you, Kim. Tremendous job. But you sat back and I kept thinking to myself...
I froze.
Why? So why was it then? What was it that curtailed you? Because, hey, I've been watching...
Because that's only 3 years ago. Yeah, it's a very good question.
I've been watching you, and not only am I very proud, but I've always worried...
Did I mention he's my number one cheerleader?
I've always worried that if I ever unleashed the beast in you, that ferocious work ethic that you have, if I could ever unleash it and let it do something that it was passionate about, you'd be uncontrollable. And here we are.
But it's an interesting point, and I like to just explore that for the purposes of our listeners, because it plays into what I talk about when I write in my newsletter on LinkedIn, Power of Reinvention. So I have been accustomed to talking to rooms of people, being on stage, talking business, know my subject matter expertise, could talk while I'm underwater.
Right.
But in all of those settings, I'd have a microphone but not a camera. And I think that particular day where we went in to do a piece to camera for what was one of my failed startups with some friends, but nothing ventured, nothing gained. I didn't like the way the camera saw me. Now, that was also before I gave up a 58-year addiction with sugar. And I photographed very differently, and I personally, in my eyes, presented very differently pre-sugar and post-giving up sugar. And so it wasn't so much that I didn't have the language and the knowledge of what I wanted to speak about. I just didn't present in the manner in which I wanted to.
You didn't like what you saw.
I hated what I saw.
Isn't that amazing? Because that wasn't a challenge for me in that studio. I kept thinking, you look fabulous. Mind you, you look extraordinary now. Benjamin Button, eat your heart out.
I look younger now than I did.
Yes, you do. But you also were a very, very fashionable woman who knew how to carry yourself, and you've always known how to style yourself, even from, was it 4, 5 or 6 years of age? And I remember one of those stories. Your mother said to me, "Oh yes, she ruined many a dress." And I'm thinking, so she was telling the truth. Yeah. So you always did know what you wanted to wear.
Yeah. So and I had no issue with what I was wearing on that day, but the perfectionist in me did not like what I saw in the monitor of the camera, and I didn't want to go to air that way.
Wow.
It was debilitating.
Had I known that, we would have cut sugar.
So giving it up.
What a departure.
Giving it up is an incredibly big deal. I am now moving into my 3rd year sugar-free, cold turkey, 0 processed sugar. And if you haven't tried it, just give it a nudge for a couple of weeks and see what it feels like, because it's a game changer.
There you go. All right. So you have reinvented yourself.
I have.
Yes.
I have in so many ways, both professionally and personally.
So it wasn't imposter syndrome that curtailed your opportunity to talk to the camera. It was you simply not liking what you saw. Right. Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Great. But seriously, how common has that been in your experience? You've worked with a lot of women in front of the camera. Is that an unusual thing for you to hear?
No. In truth, if I reflect on all my team members, my colleagues, and on-air partners that I've shared the screen with, I can remember very early on, again, there was a desire for them to be happy with what they saw. And I understand that. I can remember the first time I saw myself on camera, and my then boss, Bruce Gingell, said to me, "I'm going to give you something brand new. It's called a Betacam recorder." Now, we're talking a long, long time ago, before they were part of what was available to the public. So I had just started or about to start my television career, and I'm presented with a Betacam recorder, which is the one that basically competed with the VHS recorders of the time. The Betacam was a better bit of technology, but the marketing drive of the VHS team won the day. But I had one of the very first Betacam recorders in Australia.
And why did he give it to you?
He gave it to me so I could get comfortable with myself on screen, and that I could, he knew that I had enough critic in me to will myself to get out of any bad habits. So he wanted me to watch every night's news after the event, and to decide or be very aware of nuancing, because what we were doing was showcasing world news in a way that had never been done before. What we offered, that is the original SBS World News team, it was something that shocked the marketplace. I know our commercial rivals hated it.
Yeah.
They couldn't cope with it. They didn't like what we were doing because we were pushing the envelope.
But come back to the nuancing, if we could. And we see it on air now, and we debate about it over the dinner table as we watch news. Yeah. I mean, there is a way of introducing a story that has grief attached to it. There's a way of introducing a story with brevity. There's a way of introducing a story that's joyful. All of those things are different.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to play back and see yourself do that would have been incredibly helpful in understanding just what the unique nuancing to each of those stories might be.
It was exactly that. It allowed me to understand how to do a particular story. And I remember saying to one of my first producers, language is key. And he kept saying to me, it's everything. And one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist. And we have this challenge now in this modern era of the media where there's so much disruption, so much misinformation, and every word you use, every phrase, every utterance, you've got to be very aware of the complications that can be in the marketplace depending on how you say it. I say to people time and time again, you can say anything.
Let's dig into what makes a great interview. Is it a voice? Is it curiosity? Is it the ability to listen? Or is it something else? I've been interviewing people on the other side of the desk for 30 years to draw out their story in a executive search setting. Is it the same?
In order to draw out that information that you seek, you've got to listen. People will tell you a lot about themselves.
I find people tell me things.
Hide, between the marshes, so to speak. So it's not what they tell you, it's what they don't tell you and what you've got to find, what you've got to seek, what you've got to discover. And it's the way you pitch and ask the questions that may open a pathway or a window or a portal that'll get to the next chapter of the story. But
do you find
for
people...
me, listening is key.
Do you find people tell you things that they didn't intend to tell you? Because I know that is something, whether it's in the setting of Power of Women or historically in a boardroom setting interviewing somebody for a job, they end up disclosing something they didn't need. What's in that? How does that happen?
Once you make someone comfortable, and the discussion is one-on-one. Every interview is one-on-one. And every time you're on air, you're one-on-one.
Explain that, because you've coached me in that.
I don't know if I've coached you.
Well,
I've offered up. I've known the limits of my ability, and I wasn't ever going to change.
Would she listen? No.
Yeah, well, she listened. She is Max's daughter.
Yeah, don't you forget
your
it.
Your father was a fabulous man, and we miss him every day. But he told me very early on, you're not going to be able to tell her anything. And I've never really wanted to tell you. I've wanted to offer up stuff and hope that some of it sticks.
I learn by osmosis.
Yes, you do. You do. And that's not what everyone does, but you'd like more people to learn by osmosis. Good. They observe, they watch with great care. And the more care, the more effort and work ethic you put into it, you'll get more out. And I've always watched the very best, and I've had some terrific young men and women pass through my news journey, and I've watched their careers blossom. And all of them, I've tried to give them the same sort of advice. And it just goes to show you how some people take it on board and embrace it.
And some don't.
And some take it to another level.
Yeah.
And then others, I think I know what I'm doing, and their careers are fine.
So did you ever think you were going to coach me?
On our wedding party, I remember I offered up the microphone to you, and you were wise enough to say, I don't want to be the news anchor here.
Because you were.
Because I was the news anchor. But you said, I'm very happy as the weather girl. And I thought, weather girl? That
is how I gave our wedding speech.
Yes, you did.
You were still on TV at the time, and you took the microphone at our post-wedding party to a large room and spoke.
Yep.
And I have always enjoyed the microphone, but following on from you was not going to be the highlight of my day.
No, but
so I thought the only natural way to follow after you was to do the weather.
Yeah, and you did it well. I remember saying to...
I said there'd be some stormy weather to come.
Correct.
There has been.
100% right. Yeah. 20 years together, we've had our challenges. We've challenged each other.
Few thunderstorms. Few inclement stormy
weather.
days.
Yeah.
Lots of sunshine.
We've grown through all of those, and I think it's very normal. But I remember also you saying that you took a line out of one of my weather people at the time. You said, "Weather, it's just a forecast. It's never a promise." So here we are, 20 years on, and we've kept the promise to stick together and learn from each other.
Yeah. Well, and that's probably a good segue to talk about the power of partnership. And I never in my wildest dreams thought that I was going to be working with you or coming to work close within the industry that you've been in for the better part of 50 years.
Yeah.
And the industry has changed enormously.
And continues to evolve.
Yeah. But did you ever envisage we would have the ability to actually work together professionally?
I always thought if we could find a topic or a subject that we could immerse ourselves into, I thought what you were doing, the idea of partenaire, which was a great concept and something that you and your two girlfriends at the time...
Our offline dating agency.
Yeah, offline dating. But what I loved about it was that you showed me that you could take all the skills that you had garnered in your 30-year career as a headhunter and put it to good use, bringing people together. Not just bringing a super talent to a corporate organisation. And I remember you saying to me, one of the great challenges of bringing a CEO, and that was always what you were trying to do. You were bringing C-suite and above to different businesses. That people would come to you and they'd say, we want a change of culture. And what I loved about what you did was you were forensic. You didn't, and I remember you were adamant. You weren't a recruiter.
Adamant's a word that often is used to describe me, George, actually.
You weren't a recruiter, nor did you recruit. You were a headhunter. And what that meant was you didn't go out there and put out an ad and get 55,000 applications and weed or, work your way through those applications.
No, I went the reverse.
You would go not to find the best talent available. You always were seeking the best talent. Whether they were in a job or out of the job, you would take them out of that job. Or that was the task, to entice them to leave where they were because you thought they were a better fit somewhere else. And it was that allowed you to have the success that you had, and also deliver some fabulous partnerships, bringing people out from all over the world to take on positions.
For anybody thinking about a career pivot and the power of reinvention, all of the skills that I garnered and acquired and honed over those 30 years are the skills that I draw on every day for the Power of Women and for the Power of Women podcast. Because in the same way as I need to build a curated guest list of who to bring to the studio to interview, I'm the client. But the brief is, who do I believe my audience wants to hear from? What are the important messages of the day that would resonate with the Power of Women podcast audience? And some of those people are referred to me in the same way as people would put their hand up to say, I'm looking for a change of career. So it comes that way. But more often than not, my guest list is curated through me doing exactly the same as I would have done with an executive search of come up with a plan,
Yep.
and then go to market as to who would be the best person to speak on behalf of that particular issue or topic or narrative. And then I go out and I approach them and garner their interest in actually being part of the podcast. And only one has said no to date, and I haven't given up yet, so.
Persist. Something you've done all your life. You have a tremendous...
And
work
keeping in
ethic.
mind we're husband and wife, he could have used another word and that would have been a deal breaker. So persist is very good, George.
Yeah. Perhaps I could have used another word, but persist suits because it's to do with your drive, it's to do with your work ethic. And the other thing I've learnt is you have an extraordinary capacity to learn. You want to teach yourself something, you've taught yourself how to edit, you've taught yourself how to produce, you've taught yourself to use technology that I'm struggling to master. And that shows me a different level of involvement, a different level of
Curiosity
wanting
and a
to
learning
learning.
agility.
Yeah, curiosity is entry level. We've gone well past that, madam.
Well, thank you.
No, it's okay.
Thank you. So how do we give each other space in working together? Why do you think it works?
I think you have always respected my talent and my ability in my career.
I do. Enormously.
And I've always been a champion of watching you deliver.
That's true.
Over the years. And I don't think I can remember even when we've had a personal tragedy. We lost someone very special to us, our late sister-in-law, Amy. You were tasked by your brother, who was in grief, who was shattered, and he had to go overseas to claim his wife's body and bring her back. You were tasked with creating a funeral. And I remember you asking yourself, because you were saying it aloud, so where do I start? Not only did you do the funeral brilliantly, but you also came up with 2 state memorial services, one in South Australia, because that's where her parents were, and she was a South Australian girl originally. Amy Safe became Amy Gillett. And then we had one also in Ballarat, because that's where she and Simon were living. So I remember watching you take that challenge from out of nowhere. And it was not something you had ever done before, but you willed yourself, you armed yourself, you found the best people to deliver it. And if you reflect back, we
There's no playbook for that.
No, there was no playbook, no trigger warning, as one of your podcasts spoke
Hannah
about.
Asafiri says, yeah.
And she's a remarkable woman, and what a terrific subject you had, and what an enormous career and job she's been doing for her community. So again, very, very, very proud. I think from day one, watching you cope, and I shouldn't have been surprised, because I remember you did everything for our wedding. Yeah, we couldn't go to Santorini because Amy had just passed. We didn't want to challenge the family anymore; they were grieving, so we found a new way to have a wedding, and we did it beautifully. And we had my daughter from a previous marriage, the lovely Lauren, come up, and she was one witness, and your brother Simon was the other witness. And we had one other couple join us. They were told not to come, but they wouldn't listen. They sounded like someone else I know, just would not take any advice, and they rocked up and made themselves part of our wedding party, which was lovely.
Probably should mention our connection around one particular number too.
Oh, yes, you're talking about the number 3.
Yeah.
Well, you should recount that you did all the preparation for the wedding. We got up to the hotel at Port Douglas, and just as we were about to check in,
on the honeymoon.
On the honeymoon, Yes.
Post-wedding.
We got married at the Mirage Resort, which felt a bit like a mirage at the time. But we went to, was it Port Douglas? No.
Palm Cove.
Palm Cove for the honeymoon. And we arrived at our hotel, and as we were checking in, the girl's gone, you've been upgraded. And I looked up, and there's the card, and there's the number.
333.
And the number was not just 3, it was 333. So that
And
became our symbol.
It did, and it had been my symbol for years of identifying where my luck was turning, when I needed a sign. And I think I've told the story before where you mentioned I didn't know quite what to do with the planning of the funeral, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I had a vision of Amy sitting
Well, you felt her presence very strongly.
On the end of the bed, and it was 3:33 in the morning, and 333 has become this connection of mine that has become a connection between you and I now, where 333 becomes this powerful point, and we note it quite often in the day. We quite often send each other a screenshot of our phone where 333 has come up, and the quirky part of that is you're my screensaver and I'm your screensaver, as all good partners should be, and this whole 333 resonance carries through our world.
We've been on holiday in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
And 333, recurring number.
Yeah. Turns up in the weirdest places.
Absolutely.
Where it shouldn't be.
We walked into a gift shop.
An electronics, high-tech electronics store.
Electronics shop, and sure enough, there was this clock.
An old-fashioned clock.
Yep.
High-tech electronics store. Every modern whiz-bang in the store.
Yep.
And I looked on the shelf, and there was one of those old-fashioned clocks.
Yep.
Where the
and it had three,
where the time clicks over on it.
Yeah.
And it's like the tin number drops over. And I remember seeing it there, and I pointed it out to you. And I said to the guy behind the counter, I said, "Why is that there?" And he said he'd never seen it before.
Never noted it before.
And it was there frozen on 333. And it wasn't 333 time that we'd walked in the store, but there it was, frozen in time at 333.
Yeah, eerie.
Very,
maybe it was Amy reminding us to have a good time.
Maybe it was.
Maybe it was.
Well, coming up, I want to talk more about the media and the power of storytelling. If you're loving the Power of Women podcast, be sure to jump on to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss an episode.
That you get a chance to sit together and mark a special occasion. The special occasion is our 20th wedding anniversary.
It's not that often that you get to do all the talking.
No. Normally I leave it to the weather girl.
Do you know, that reminds me, George, when we... that's a fabulous pair of lips on the screen behind us.
Correct.
But
you should explain the weather girl.
Well, I should, because when we first got married and we did a wedding party, I was terrified, which is ironic given I now have a podcast, but I was terrified to take the microphone after you. And the reason was because you were still on air doing the news then.
Yeah.
So I decided the only credible way for me to speak after
was to become a weather girl.
Was to become a weather girl. So,
but here we are. Do you know what? 20 years on, and I'm now terrified to speak in your presence.
Fantastic.
Happy anniversary. Bye, baby.
George, coming back out of this break, I want to talk about ageism and visibility. And I've spoken about it ad nauseum on the Power of Women podcast, and I have written about it in my thought leadership pieces via LinkedIn as well. But I really want to talk about how it plays out in the media, and you've got deep knowledge of this. When we think about age and gender, how has that shaped your perspective of women in broadcasting?
Let's look at gender for a moment. and I'll take you way back to my beginnings at SBS in Sydney at the brand new studios, as they were then at Milson's Point, just next to the Sydney Harbour Bridge. And I can remember walking into the newsroom and it was filled with men. We had one woman and she was the director's assistant. She was a firecracker, fantastic talent, and proved that because her career just continued to blossom as she moved through the next 10 years. And she ended up working for some of the biggest and best organisations on the planet. But when I started in late 1979, late 1980 at SBS, I can remember all these men and the one woman.
Wow.
By the time I left SBS, which was late 1988, just before the year would turn around and become 89, I was the lone man in the newsroom.
Is that right?
So SBS had shown the media world that news services didn't have to be filled with men to garner results, to create headlines, nor to achieve ratings. So I watched that transference, and for me it was a joy. I never had a challenge, never had a problem with working for a man or a woman, and I never saw one as lesser than the other.
Were the other networks?
That wasn't the collective view of the media space.
Yeah, so what was happening in the other free-to-air channels? Were there many
I won't name the networks because that's not fair, because the world's changed, and so have they. And it wasn't what they were doing, it was what management was doing at the time. But I can remember going to the then number one network who came and headhunted me. I was headhunted from SBS to come and do a brand new national world news on a commercial channel, which really appealed to me because for the first time, I thought I'll have all the facilities I need, all the tools, all the satellite coverage that I require to do the best possible job. It didn't turn out to be the case for only one reason. The two principal people were headhunted within a year of my arrival by Murdoch and taken to Britain to help him out of a jam. And how's this for sheer history? Two Australians from one end of the world who we're continually told know nothing about football, and that is the world game, the round ball code. And Sam Chisholm and David Hill, who had done the marvellous work for the Nine Network, creating the world of cricket that captured the imagination of the globe and changed the way cricket was covered and reported on forever. Those two men went overseas and created the English Premier League, which has just celebrated 30-plus odd years of success and is the biggest sporting platform in the world. And then David Hill stopped what he was doing in Britain and went to America for Murdoch and helped to create Fox Sport and Fox News. So a couple of Australians who could have stayed with me chose to take on the world and were marvellous. But for me, it was, again, stepping into a newsroom filled with men. There were some women, and very talented ones, but when you go from a newsroom that was basically only one male, and it's the one on air, because I was the news anchor Monday to Friday, and our weekend newsreader at the time was Mary Kostakidis, and when she wasn't available or on holiday, Li Lin Chin was the one who had come in to add yet another bit of diversity to multicultural television. And then I got the shock of my life. They sacked her. And I was shaken by that, because I thought to myself, multicultural television has a role to play, and that was to give diversity an opportunity. And here they were, in their infinite wisdom, new management team thought she wasn't going to fit. And I thought, this is crazy. And then it coincided with Channel 9 coming to headhunt me. So I accepted the challenge and went to commercial television to prove my worth. And I said to them, you better rethink your choice. And they went back and re-employed her, and the rest is history. So I'm delighted to have had a small part in that role.
Yeah.
So, and then the news team basically at SBS after I left was all female. So there
All
you go,
female.
all power. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still largely female-led today.
Because their attention to detail, the ability to work together is pretty well noted by all good management teams.
Let's stay on air talent as we see it today.
Yep.
Do you think ageism is
Present
in what we see on air for men and for women?
The end of my career effectively was 2012 when the management team at the time said, look, we have a decision between you and that person, and we're going to go with that person. I didn't have a problem with that.
And how old was that person?
They were probably 40, and I was closer to 60, I think.
Yeah.
Or
and so
late
you think
50s.
so as a male,
Yeah.
did you feel at that time the decision to take you off air was about age?
It probably was a combination of I was the newer arrival. They were a longer-term member of that team.
Albeit younger.
They were younger, and they probably didn't cost as much. So you put all those ingredients together, and that package becomes one that you can tinker with. And look, I got looked after to the best of the ability at the time, but it shook me in a way that I hadn't imagined, and I would liken it to the end of a football career, where you have to reposition yourself and look to the next step of your development. And for me, the thing that helped me get through it was, one, the strength of my wife, who was in a corporate position and carried the can there, but also someone who gave me enough reason to keep looking and saying, just create your own business. Go out and do what you do and show others how they can do their job even better. So media training and all of that. And I also got to do, over the next 12, 14 years, things like I did a documentary for SBS on Armenia. Now, had I been behind the news desk, that opportunity would never have availed itself.
So ageism is experienced on both sides of the divide in terms of gender.
Sure.
When you look at the screens today, what's your view on the age of those on air? Do you think ageism is playing out in front of our eyes on the screen?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah. We know it personally. We know it through friends and the pressure they're feeling to continue to perform. Look, it's always important to perform, right? But working in a newsroom or working in any space where you can feel not the sword of Damocles, but you can feel a gentle arm on your shoulder saying, it might be time. I don't think that's a healthy way to work. We hear about toxic workplaces. The last thing you want, always, is to create a space where not only is it safe, but you walk in the door because you want to walk in the door. Yeah? And I'm not talking about the people who work from home, which is a whole new development for me. I can't quite get my head around it, but I understand we're in an evolving space with so much technology. And I remember only recently saying to someone, we shouldn't be surprised. Yeah? The age of production, or the industrial age, covered about 200 years. This modern technology era that we're going through started
so fast.
Effectively 2004.
Yeah, with the
2007, the iPhone. 2004, the little pod. iPod. Yeah, that was the beginning of you being able to carry your own material around.
And now we're carrying our TVs around.
Well, we're carrying everything now. I was told by a very smart man, I said to him one day, are we going to have reporters with a camera everywhere they go? And he looked at me and he said, Absolutely, that day will come. What he didn't know,
Was it was going to be a phone?
No, he didn't look far enough forward, nor had he thought about the arrival of your own personal camera and microphone, high definition one, and one that would be available to everyone. So not only have we reached the stage where every journalist has their own camera, right, and props, but we have every person in the world. Now, it's all well and good to have a professional with a camera, because one, they know how to handle the camera. Two, they understand the responsibilities of publishing and the cost that comes with it. But leaving it to just anyone to have that technology, well, all you unleash
Storytelling is
problems and propaganda. Stories need to be told in a manner, if you're a professional, you need to tell the story that's most representative of the facts. Not your story, not the one you think is the story, but the one that best represents what has happened. That is how you get to the nub of a real story. But today, we're seeing an awful lot of opinion because people don't have enough time to produce the story.
Well, we're sharing opinion here. I mean, that's what podcasting is. It's storytelling.
We're sharing more than opinion. In this particular case, we're adding a layer of knowledge and a layer of experience and helping to tell the story.
Noted.
Not just, I have an idea that, we're going to do this tomorrow. No. This is based on what we've seen, what we've experienced, and what we've seen illustrated time and time again. And as I say to people, every time they ask me, what's the biggest challenge in a very heavy news day? And I'd say to stay above the fray, not to allow yourself to be immersed in the emotion, because as we've found in war, what's the first casualty?
The truth.
The truth. And yet we hear people throw around figures and names as if they know. And I say to them, where did you get those numbers from? Oh, they're around. No. Where did you get them?
Yeah.
And unless you can validate them, those numbers may well be the fanciful numbers you use for your next lottery ticket or your next phone. Yeah, because they're not any value to anyone else. All they do is muddy the waters, raise the ire of people and stir emotions, and what we get is distortion. What we get is anger. What we get is hate. And what's it based on again?
My opinion.
Opinion, and not being able to tell the truth, because in war, all those things are clouded for specific reasons. There are operational reasons you don't tell the truth, for the safety of your troops and for the safety of others. But clearly that's not going to win too many fans and friends on the social media platform. So you stick to your guns as a professional and try always not to tell the story that suits you, but to tell the story that's most representative of the facts. And those facts that you can validate. Can't validate them, it's just whimsy.
Speaking of storytelling, and that is what the power of women is all about.
Yeah.
How different is the power of storytelling today, do you think, through this lens being podcasting?
Again, for me, it's exciting to watch professional women who have a passion to help each other. I've noted that the great many of the subjects that you've chosen from day one have helped you cover a particular topic of interest that resonates throughout the marketplace, whatever the subject matter was. You talked about, I can remember very early on in one of the very early podcasts, you spoke about the imposter syndrome and how it's carried itself on one, not only on one shoulder but on two shoulders to hold people down. And at various times in our lives, we all go through this imposter syndrome, yeah? Whether it's for a millisecond or is it for months or years. And I say to people, the more you work, the more you surround yourself with really good people, believe, have faith, and it's like a high tide, yeah? It will raise the newsroom, or it'll raise the room, it'll raise the school, or in your brother's case, it raised his rowing team to a world title. And they were so good at working as one. What did they do? They didn't just win once. They kept winning. And if I reflect on the man who is your brother, what you cannot mistake is that when he says he's going to do something, when he puts his mind to it,
He's going to do it.
he does it. Not he's going to do it, he does it. And
It's called DNA, George.
it is DNA, and I should have taken that on when I said,
Did you miss that when you said I do?
I must have been swayed by something else.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just your beauty.
No, well, I grew up in a household where there was no such thing as a thinly veiled threat.
No, correct.
It was a fact.
It was a fact. They wanted to create a hazard. You were right in the middle of that hazard.
Yeah.
No. But listen, if you think about it, it's held you in good stead, privately and publicly, and will continue to do that, because it's that drive to be the best. It's that drive to want to be even better than last year. You don't sit on your laurels. You continue to want to make them better. And I've watched your reach to make sure that your technology, the grasp of technology, is better each and every week, let alone each and every year. So you're advancing this podcast in ways that very few people can.
Thank you. As we come to a close today...
Oh, no, you're curtailing our interview.
I am.
Oh, dear.
Is there something, and this is a bit like one of these game shows of, what's your partner's favourite colour?
Oh,
and
yeah.
you did it,
Okay,
yeah?
okay.
But a little more depth than
Yeah,
that.
right. This will be fun.
So what do you think is one thing people don't know about me but should? And I'm going to do the same for you.
Oh, what is it they don't know about you? Oh, I think you have a heart of gold. I've discovered that you have a heart. You went and had a test, and the doctor said, yep, it's there.
I have one.
I had to sit back and go, wow. So you have a heart of gold.
Wow, that's a thought you want to leave them with. Thanks for that, George. I'm not sure that you get to stay as my executive producer on that basis.
They see you as a strong woman. They've also got to understand there's a golden heart there.
Well, and my reflection is similar. I can remember being absolutely incensed a few years ago. You'd been approached to be on a panel for International Women's Day, and there was one particular individual who decided to make a noise about the fact that whether you should or shouldn't be there. And as it so often is the case, when somebody's making a noise, it's typically about them, not about the person whom they're talking about. And that was, in fact, the case. And my reason for pointing that out is I think it's probably underestimated just how many people you have helped along the way on their journey in media, and in particular women, helping them on their journey, but generously giving your time. And I've been the recipient of that, because whether it's been through osmosis or the gentle commentary in the background, because God forbid I didn't sign up for one of your media training courses. But you have been a great mentor, a great cheer squad, and in fact a great partner.
Well, it fills me with a great deal of delight to hear that. But I've also got to say that I've had my early days where I demanded more from my on-air partners, and I probably rode them harder than I should have, but it was always wanting
Hindsight's
to
a good
drive
thing.
them.
There's industries built on hindsight, George.
But you've got to understand too, to arrive at where I've arrived at today, it's because I've learnt from all those experiences in the past. So I say to people, don't be so stuck in your way that there's an intransigence. That's a word that Paul Keating made famous.
Not often you can't say it. Difficult to say word, George. It's your moniker.
I couldn't say it. It was a case of reaching out and trying to find it again because some file in the back of my office space. But intransigence, your desire to stay rooted to a particular idea and a particular scheme and a particular fashion is not a healthy thing. And in an evolving world, I think that's the most important thing to learn.
And that is probably a great closing message, because intransigence and the power of reinvention do not come together.
No.
So, but what I wanted to really highlight was the power of partnership. To think after 20 years of marriage, you and I can actually work together, and we're talking about some pretty exciting things coming up in the new year that we might be doing together.
Before you go any further, do you remember what we spoke about before we agreed to marry?
Oh.
We both said we were better together than apart. And that was I think one of the biggest desires. We wanted to see that if indeed that was true, and we would be better together. I hate the term, but people say power couple. It's not power couple. It's about two people.
Gets thrown around a bit, though.
Yeah. It does get thrown around. But what I want to make very clear, it's about equality.
Yes.
It's about two equals pushing one another and helping one another to be better. And you've done it for me on a great many occasions. And I remember someone asking me only recently.
Continually.
Yeah, and someone said to me the other day, I love your dress sense. I said, well, that's always nice to hear. I'll pass it on. My stylist does all the heavy lifting. They went, what? I said, yes. Once upon a time, my wife used to style Steve Izard
when I
to
worked
pretend
at Country
to be
Road.
George Donikian. Now she has a much simpler task. She dresses George Donikian. So there we are.
Well, that's
Full
probably
circle.
It is, and that's probably a great point to finish on. But the power of partnership, the power of storytelling, the power of reinvention, but the power of partnership is really something else. Until next time.